My wife at the time was my girlfriend, who was a project manager at Best Roofing. Took some time, came with me. We're backpacking around. And on the scooter, she says, "Hey, did you see what that sign said?" I go, "No, what are you talking about?" So we turn around and we go back, and it's a retail store, and there's 3 of them, like 1, 2, 3. And it says Zach B. Kairos. It was like a God thing.
Whoa, bro.
It was Godcidental for sure, in that order and everything. And I just remember looking at her. I started crying. I called my mom. I was like, I found the name. I know what I'm doing. November 8th of 2023, we met at the Bank of America building, downtown Fort Lauderdale, which was kind of cool because the building next door, which used to be the SunTrust Towers, was my first $1 million job. So I was in the penthouse looking at my first big job that I sold, and I get this wire that's like life-changing. That's how the unexpected turn of events happen.
That's amazing, man.
If you have something that's a burning desire that you want to go forward with, I would say go forward with it. Don't be afraid of hard work. Culture is everything. Make sure you're the best place to work. Align yourself with people that believe in your vision and that believe in you. Put your helmet on, put your mouthpiece in, and go to work.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Growth Minded Contractor Show. I'm super glad you're here, and man, I have an amazing guest for you. This guest is, you're going to get a lot of value and be entertained and educated and inspired by my friend Zach Wallick. What's up, bro?
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Glad you're here. Your first podcast.
First podcast.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm the first to have you on. You've hid well, by the way, in the industry. I'm surprised you haven't been extracted into more of these scenarios because you have a lot of things to share. You've done. So let's just talk a little bit about your resume out of the gate so people can know who you are. So give us a bit of the bio and the story. Flex now. I know you're a humble guy, but this is the time to let everybody know what's occurred in your career.
So, again, thanks for having me. I am a third-generation roofing contractor. I'm 39, South Florida native. Grew up here in South Florida. I got 3 beautiful kids. My wife, Karen, and I been together for a while. And, so I would say roofing's been in my blood, man. My grandfather started our family in this industry in 1978. When I came out of college, started working with Dad. Worked with him for about 10 years, gained an insane amount of industry experience, probably 40 years of experience shoved into a 10-year pipeline. And I give him full credit for that. And at some point in my career, which we'll get a little bit into, branched off, had the opportunity to sell about $150 million worth of commercial roofing deals over that 10 years. Started my own residential company with my wife, who I met at my father's company. She was a project manager. And in a short period, we did a little north of 65 million in that 4 years of residential roofing. And we're fortunate to exit the business unexpectedly, November 8th of 23. It was certainly a life-changing experience and has definitely allowed me to hide from the industry for a little bit.
Yeah, man. So, yeah.
I think I remember I don't know, maybe a year ago when the deal just went down, you're like, "Hey, man, can we talk? Just like share your story, talk to my team." And I'm like, "Ryan, I am taking a break with anything that has to do roofing. I'm going undercover for a while." So,
yeah.
But I'm excited to share my story, man. So
yeah,
thanks.
man. I'm excited to have you share it because incredible stuff. So, hey, what's up, guys? I hope you are loving this episode. Hey, if you're a contractor looking to scale and grow your business through sales leadership training and sales coaching and training for your team, then look no further. All you got to do is text us at 945-800-4220. 945-800-4220. Okay? Or just go to our website, sellontg.com. Again, if you're a contractor and you want to grow your sales leadership training skills, your sales coaching skills, and you want to grow and help your sales reps get better, we can help commercial companies. We help residential companies. No matter what trade you're in, you just want to transform your business, okay? Come to STG. We hope to see you there. Hey, now back to the episode. Let's talk about your dad and your dad's company, and even just like it's a big part of my story too.
Yeah.
So your dad is Greg Wallick. Let's talk about Greg, and let's just just share for the most of the audience doesn't actually know. Like we have our circles that know Greg, but a lot of people don't. And so let's talk about Greg and then how that's been incredible for you.
Yeah.
And how that you've taken almost like, I like to say it's like his ceiling became your floor. Like he built and then that became where you started. And look what's happened at 39. Like it's insane. So let's talk about that.
No, so my dad's been my biggest mentor and support system in my life through a lot of hardship. But he's been, I always call him the babe of the industry, you know. He has been, I would say, a pioneer in the industry.
Yeah.
He started in 1978 as well, right out of college, always been a leader, captain of his football team in high school, got a scholarship to University of Miami, spent some time there, captain of the football team there, got a master's degree, and then came out and got into the roofing business. My grandfather bought, I think he was working for Gulf Supply at that time.
Was he?
Yeah, which is now Gulf Eagle Supply.
Oh, fun.
And there was a company that was going out of business, so he bought that phone number. And my dad had just got out of school and wasn't sure what he was going to do, so talked to Grandpa and said, "Hey, come help me run this roofing company." So that's where the roofing started in our family. And since then, Dad, I'd say he really took off when at some point in that time together, my grandfather and my dad had a dispute, and my dad actually got fired from
your dad. Your grandfather fired your dad.
My grandfather fired my dad.
Yeah.
They, weren't in agreement for whatever. And that was when I think my dad really branched off. It was at a very similar age. I left my dad at 35. I think it was around the same time that happened. Allowed my dad to go down to Orlando and open up a company called GRI, General Roofing Industries. And that's where the legacy really started. Dad grew that to a pretty substantial business, was doing all school board government work, had 5 offices throughout the state, and was the pioneer in creating what a lot of companies are doing now, which is the roll-up throughout the
he was like the first one to try it.
He was the first one to try it.
To do it.
Yeah.
Or try it, do it. I mean,
yeah.
He ended up, he told me, we had lunch 2 days ago, and he was just like, "Ryan, we transacted on 17 companies in one day."
In one day. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So he set the standard for that. And then I think about 2 years into that deal, he went to present his plan to the board of directors as to what we were going to do the next year. And I think the board had a different agenda.
Yeah.
And they released Greg at that time, which was definitely a shock to him.
Because he had like some massive upside paydays, and he also had not just that, like a desire to really shape an industry and could have changed everything.
Shape the industry. Yeah. He had a massive payday. I think what he learned going through that, which is he rolled all of his investment back into the roll-up.
Yeah.
So he had all this stock, but he had no cash. And they did a capital call behind his back, diluted his stock down to next to nothing, and released him. And from what I've been told, his attorney said, "Hey, Greg, you can hire me. We can fight this. You're probably going to lose. I would suggest you just go reinvent yourself." And, imagine somebody telling you that after you've spent your whole life building this powerhouse of an industry.
Crazy.
So
then he bought Best Roofing.
He bought Best Roofing.
He was losing money. He was doing like $2 million a year or something like that. Right?
100% new construction company.
Yeah.
Bought Best Roofing in July of 2001. They were all new construction. They were losing money year after year. And when he took the company over, he said he met the guy at a Starbucks. They did a napkin deal. Really didn't know what he was walking into. He bought a little bit of a backlog, some equipment, and a phone that rings. And he took his lawyer's advice and said, "I'm going to go reinvent myself." So,
yeah.
Can you imagine you have 100 employees and you replace all of them within 1 year? That's what Greg had to do that year. Is he transitioned the company from a new construction company to a service-based organization focused on re-roof and maintenance.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then he had a rise and then the recession hit, and then kind of when you and I were in college age, he started to get like more sophisticated and double down. Well, he's always very sophisticated, but I mean, like, really double down. And he invented a tool that would help him manage pipeline that was influenced by a sales methodology that he had gotten from an outside source. And he started to just kind of really master the game of selling. And he was just kind of getting that direction whenever you probably started joining, right? Maybe a couple years in.
So it goes a little bit further back when he just bought Best Roofing. They didn't have any kind of CRM or any bid management program. So he had a friend who was good at writing code, and they created something called Bid Log. That was the name of it. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
it was, I remember I would be the admin. It was bidloglogin.com.
Right.
Now we go back there.
Yeah. So it was exactly what it's called. It was to log your bids and to track the fundamentals of the sales process from, the initial call to the visit, to the estimate, to the delivery, to the follow-ups. And it just, I would say, was the beginning stage of bringing clarity to what a sales process is and how to scale a sales organization.
Yeah, that was crazy. And so then you came in and you were a service sales account manager at first, right?
So this was I graduated from Florida State University in 2009, right in the middle of the recession.
Yeah.
At that time, things weren't good. The business was going down. And frankly, Dad didn't even know if he was going to be around the following day. He didn't really have a job for me. So I had to go work, in a different industry for 6-7 months. And
you did the same thing. You know that?
You did admission sales?
I did admission sales.
Oh, so
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Thanks. I was for Kaiser University.
I worked for City College, like down the street.
Yeah.
So it was like you're selling.
Dialing for dollars.
You're basically selling with no commission plan, a salary only, a unaccredited education package to people who don't have the money.
That's right.
It was really hard.
The $75 application fee. That was get him to take out a $100,000 loan, and we're good to go.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
To be a nurse one day,
Yeah, but I will tell you that was a good experience for me. A couple things I learned is I realized I'm not an office guy. I don't want to sit in front of a computer with a headset and just make a million calls, and most of my appointments don't show up. But it also, I excelled in that.
I'm reliving what you just. I'm like,
you're standing in the lobby waiting.
You got your tie on, looking all good.
Yeah. And looking back, man, I was 22. Meeting with people who have experienced a little bit more life than me, critiquing them and giving them what my recommendation on as to what they should do with their life. If anything, the roles probably should have been reversed, but so anyways, no, I
How long did you do that for?
I did that for like 7 months.
So then your dad hired you?
Yeah. So what I realized is, A, I don't want to sit in an office. B, I think I'm kind of good at sales and developing relationships and getting people to believe in me. So begged and pleaded with Dad to give me an opportunity, even though I'd basically work for free at that time. I just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah.
I remember I used to go sit in my car on my lunches and just scream to get my frustration out. But Dad gave me an opportunity, and it was on the roof.
Okay.
No more suit and tie. It was boots. And looking back, I realized I brought more value than I thought at that time because I was in charge of driving the bus. So I was the one who was making sure that the crew was getting to the job site in a timely manner.
And by the way, for those who don't know, Best Roofing has buses to take their crew. So they don't meet at the job site. They meet at the office.
Yeah.
They do their morning, and then they get on a school bus.
Yeah.
Which is like football and high school football, college football. So it's like that whole culture. And then they would go to and you would drive the bus.
Yeah, and I won't get too in the weeds, but the bus came from Dad starting his working with Grandpa at that time, sold his first big job, went and met with the high school football team, did a little pep talk with them and said, hey, I got this big job. Anybody want to work on the weekends? Half the team raises their hand.
He said a certain number of bucks an hour.
Yeah. Like whoever finishes the tear off on one side first gets an extra $1 an hour. Which was a lot back then.
Yeah.
So I think 20, 30 guys raised their hand, and he's like, wow, Coach, can we borrow the bus to get everybody there? And he said, only if I'm driving. So, the whole thing. So that's where the bus came from. Offense on one side, defense, blow the whistle. Anyways.
Yeah.
So Best Roofing adopted that, and
You drove the bus.
I drove the bus. I worked on the crew for a while. It gave me good experience with kind of understanding what it is that I'm getting involved with.
Yeah.
Was not having a good time at that point. I was not a fan of roofing. But what I quickly realized was roofing was just the widget to the business, right? And that's when my mind started opening up to the business world. And I remember the job that I was at, MICC. I get the phone call from the sales manager that says, "Hey, congratulations, you've graduated from the roof. I'm looking for somebody to come in here and focus on doing our takeoffs, which is measuring our roofs." That was a big day for me. I was pretty stoked. I was not going to be tearing off roofs anymore. Had an opportunity to step into the office and start learning, what's going on there. And for those of you that don't know what takeoffs are, it's doing the site visit, measuring the roof, taking the samples, just understanding the logistics. So when you bring it back to the team, to the estimating team, we can put a price to it.
Sweet. So give us a quick, because I want to get into some of the more stuff, but so that's really important. So you learned roofing, you started doing takeoffs. How long did you take takeoffs, and what happened?
So I did takeoffs for, I don't know, 6 months, right? Graduated into the next, I did have the knack for sales, so graduated into becoming a forensic roofing specialist, which was a sales representative or a service salesperson. Started selling leak repairs, got pretty good at that, did that for maybe 2 years, selling maintenance agreements and leak repairs, and just really creating relationships and getting my phone to ring when people had roofing issues. I was the guy they called.
Nice.
Went from there, graduated into the next level of a forensic roof specialist, which was selling re-roofing. Started working with a team that we had there, a bunch of gray-haired individuals. I was the youngest guy there, and quickly got good at that and became, the top sales rep. At that time, my father had brought in a consultant. Do you remember Jim Boyle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we used to call him the Whitewater, because we change everything real fast and it would create a little bit of chaos. But I give Jim Boyer a lot of credit to the accelerated success that I was having, because at the time Dad was running the business, doing the sales. He's wearing all hats. We were about an $8 to $9 million company at that time, and he said, "Greg, you have somebody here who's young, he's hungry, he's interested in the business. You need to give him the opportunity. I would suggest you back off a little bit, focus on the business, and allow him to focus in the business and become your next sales manager." And that was a big, I think that was
your dad's a sales guy too.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah, he's amazing at selling.
Yeah. So
it was hard for him to let go.
It was very hard. Yeah, it was very hard. But it happened, and it allowed him to focus on making sure the business was healthy. Over that time, I grew into the senior vice president. We went from 8 million to a little north of 60 million, and we were awarded Roofing Contractor of the Year, according to Roofing Contractor magazine in 2018.
So I was there during the 24 to 50 part. So a huge part of the big, I was with you guys, and it was a sight to see, dude. You're a monster. I've never seen anybody like you. Watching you and your dad, some of the most talented, leaders and then salespeople. Incredible. So it was a real joy.
No, that was a good time, man. I remember you used to sit in on the sales meetings with us, provide coaching and suggestions through the follow-up system.
Yeah.
Shout out to follow-up, and which was bid log, then follow-up. And I think just like Best Roofing gave me the platform to go on to my next journey, which we'll talk about, I would say that was the same thing for you, man. It's, the experience to Greg, experience to running a sales organization, learning how to sell the software, and really what the importance of a sales process was.
Yeah, it was really cool. I wouldn't compare my success to yours because you've done way more than I have, but I would say I felt, because I was leading this company and you were very much leading the sales part of Best Roofing out on our leadership team. I felt like you were like a brother, that we weren't competing because I wasn't together, but I was inspired by your success. And I was I love the kind of, the thought of running with you. I would just call you and just connect and give you thoughts and then ask you thoughts. And I just remember just brothers going
We were
to
pushing
war.
each other, man.
It was fun. I really I miss those days. So those are, and I was very raw. Learned a lot. I learned a lot. So
weren't we all?
Yeah. So let's just hover around this period. You sold a lot. I mean, you were a player coach. You led from the front. You were not like watching people go and coaching them. Like you were like
I was
axe in the air. Like you're freaking let's go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what made you so effective, and like if somebody's listening, like, hey, I want a $30 million sales guy too, potentially. What's that? What does that look like? Like, why were you able to be so successful? Take some of the variables about Best Roofing. There's a brand, there's a strategy on service, and then talk about your success, and then like how you try to coach other salespeople and how they were able to be successful as well. I just want to kind of get some best practice out of you.
Well, I would say, it's hard to sell 30 million, or even 5 million or 10 million, when you're not aligned with a brand that has that people believe in.
Yeah.
Right. Best Roofing was a platform for me to, hook my wagon up to. I have grit. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm a pleaser. I want to, provide excellent customer service. What I think one of the things my dad always said is, how you do anything is how you do everything. Right. And, I've kind of applied that to how, I am at home with my wife, how I run a business, how I interact with people. So I aligned myself with a brand that people had, faith in. The phone rang. And then I would say it's creating a culture of getting everybody to, understand what the vision is. Okay. This is what we want to get to, and then how are we going to get there, and creating small goals to back into getting into like this, we called it the BHAG at that time, that big, hairy, audacious goal. Really. And then, the follow-up system, being fanatical about great customer service, and just like I said, just getting everybody rowing in the right direction and believing in what this vision looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, you were there. You saw.
Oh yeah.
How it was going.
How did you handle selling while leading the sales team?
Time management.
How'd you go about it? Yeah.
Just being really good about time management, and managing my calendar, like, being fanatical about like when we were having our sales meetings, and just making
Monday
sure.
morning is 7.
Monday morning.
Was it 7 or 8?
Yeah.
7, right?
It depended how we did. If we did great, it was 8. If we were in the hot seat, it was 7. So a lot of times we just met at 7:30.
Yeah, that's right.
And one of the things that we did is we really focused on our sales process, and at that time, remember, it was, the Sandler sales program, which we ended up, kind of, with you, I
kind of
rebranded it to the Stairway to Victory, which I like the way that sounds better anyways.
Yeah.
And just becoming masters at these 7 steps, it was like the bonding and rapport all the way up to the post close. And every week we did a little bit of training, and it was an interactive training. It wasn't me just preaching to everybody. It was getting everybody involved and bringing them up and focusing on, whatever step it was at that time.
So let's talk about the magic of like the way the Best Roofing sales meetings went, because that's something we teach every day. And it's like, but I remember it. It's like you had a big U shape.
Yep.
We had a big screen.
Yep.
We had a system, the CRM with the numbers up. Everyone saw the numbers.
Yeah.
We had goals.
Yep.
Everyone saw the goals. We had a flip chart for you to write on.
Yeah.
And then we would have, I think I ended up seeing it evolve to the sales reps themselves would come up and they would know their numbers, they'd present their business, and they would make a commitment to a forecast for what's going to close that week.
Yeah.
And then you would total the forecast, and then you would see how close we were from that last week's sales to the forecast before, and we got really good at forecasting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a muscle, right?
I think it breaks down to just like transparency. Like you couldn't hide. If you were doing great, you were recognized. If you weren't doing great, you were recognized, right? The number, I always say you can lie about the numbers, but the numbers never lie about themselves.
Right.
And I would like to say that, yes, I was managing them and being accountable, but at the same time, I didn't want to babysit adults. I wanted people on the team that wanted to be there and had the same vision that we did and wanted to do great things, and were willing to put the work into it. If you didn't fit that culture, it really wasn't, or that thought process, it wasn't a good fit. Like you just didn't work well with the team. So we had a horseshoe. Everybody kind of sat around. Everybody's looking at each other. We had an agenda that we would go
those. Yeah, print out it.
and it would start with some, hey, tell me what's your high low, right? What's going on? And it kind of gave you a buzz to like, where is this individual at this meeting? And then, as you said, it evolved into the individual coming up saying, hey, this is how many proposals I've delivered. Here's how many calls I've done. Here's how many I've captured, and presenting to the team. Because not only were they telling us, hey, this is what I've done and this is what I'm forecasting. On the forecasting, we would say, okay, you're going to do like 100 or 200,000, whatever it is. Well, tell me, where do you get that number? So it's, 5 jobs. Well, what are the name of those? So we'd write them down, right? So that
you would even click in to see if there was notes too.
Right.
You were
right.
in front of everybody. That was great.
It's just, being accountable, following the system, following the process, and then verifying that what we're trying to do was actually done.
And then if someone's making a great job putting their notes and updating the status, everyone's like, hey, nice job, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And if somebody wasn't, we were like, hey, let's make sure these are cleaned up like before the meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
exactly. And
because you can't rely on the system if it's not being updated.
Correct.
Right?
It's only as good as the information you put in it, right? And it's a tool. It's not going to do the work for you. So it just created visibility, transparency, forecasting. Forecasting is a big thing, especially in the roofing. It allows you to scale up, scale down. What's the future look like? So, and I would say for a long time while I was there, it worked. And like I said, we went from 8 to 60 plus $million. And it just created that sales culture at Best Roofing.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. We were big good to great guys and students there, so we talked about the flywheel effect and how you get the right people in the right seats, disciplined thought followed by disciplined action, and technology is only an accelerator. It's not the actual solution. It's just an accelerator of what's going well or what's not.
Sure.
And eventually you get what's called a flywheel effect.
Sure.
And you guys, I was watching it, dude. It was like the pipeline's growing. It's like, boom.
Yep.
Like, dude, you guys are doing some massive volume. And these weren't like new construction jobs. You were doing like re-roof jobs and service jobs. And it was amazing. It was amazing. And so, what were some of the let's talk about this. It wasn't glamorous. It was like very fundamental, repetitive. You know what I mean? Like,
it was basic blocking and tackling.
It's like, so just hit on that, because I feel like I just want to help people hear that it's not just magic and it's not like this one trick pony or silver bullet. Like,
there is no silver bullet in anything. It's basic blocking and tackling. It's I'm a big believer in what gets measured gets done, right? So it's setting short-term goals that back into your long-term goals, and then just being fanatical about measuring them. Some examples would be like, okay, we have a goal for how many leads, and then daily measuring against how many leads, how many calls, how many proposals, how many contracts we want. And those are called key performance indicators, KPIs, and just measuring those, being fanatical about it, setting realistic goals, goals that were difficult to get, but they were attainable at the same time, and just creating alignment, and like you said, getting the right people in the right seats on the bus, and before you know it, it just like that flywheel effect starts happening. Everybody's following the system in the process, and the numbers usually just take care of themselves from there.
And I noticed also that your average job size, which we would measure, because I was selling the CRM and using your data every day. So I was looking at it and I was looking at this report and I would look at that, and it was super fun to see in real time. But I noticed that the deal sizes on re-roofing started to increase.
Yeah.
Because, and so talk about that. You were kind of pioneering the bigger accounts or the bigger type of jobs. So it didn't happen overnight though. It was it was like $200,000 average re-roof. And then by the time you left, it was probably
when I left, it was like 500,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So you weren't just selling a few big jobs a year. It was a lot of doubles and singles and doubles.
It was a lot.
Just
yes.
Talk about the ascension of the deal sizes and like how maybe let's tell some like a story of the biggest job you sold.
Well,
Like what are things like that?
so it goes all the way back though to like the deal size growing to how well you're doing with planting the seeds in your pipeline and growing those relationships, right?
Talk
So
about that.
don't forget, like I started on the roof, then how to measure it, then started creating the relationships through the service, and I'm selling the $1,000 leak repairs and doing well at that and just creating, people are going to give you the small jobs first before they give you those big jobs. And most of the deals that we were getting were through referrals and word of mouth because we were following through on what we were saying we were going to do.
Yeah.
And as we started to get good at that, somebody would say, "Hey, you did a great job on my $100,000 job," and they would refer us to the next person and the next person, and before you know it, that whole referral program starts dominoing. You have a flywheel effect going on with your lead gen, and then when you get into the 4, 5, 7-figure jobs, a lot of times we were focused on the condominium world, and those are, they're
So
big.
many down here.
Yeah, there's so many down here. They're big jobs, but the board has a responsibility to make the right decision for the association. So they would bring in like an engineer, or some kind of expert who knows about roofing, and they write like a specification, and what you wanted to be aligned with those people that were getting those opportunities.
Yeah, talk about that.
So that you
Like
can get invited to the
consultants, yeah.
right? So what happened is we had a marketing department who was calling on a lot of building owners and property managers. We used to do a program when things were thin called Eye in the Sky, where we're literally searching through Google Maps, finding bad roofs, framing it, and then sending it to the owner or knocking on their door and seeing if we can get in front of them. And it was about, when people ask, is my marketing working? It's a very hard thing to measure. And what I would say is, do you have enough leads, right? And it just starts with the brand awareness and, hitting the pavement day after day after day. And the brand started to get out there. The dog was planted on the side of the truck. Jake.
Yeah.
And it was just like a very relatable brand that we were easy to do business with. We followed through with what we said. And people talk. When you do a good job, the word spreads fast.
So talk about the how'd you align with those people who would bring you to the dance, and then when you have like, how did you go about selling to multiple decision makers? What was your best practice doing that?
So aligning myself with those engineers took some time. It took a lot of time actually, because they already had relationships with other contractors. So the approach that I took was I aligned myself with as many property managers as I could, so that when that condo would hire that engineer, they would say, "This is my roofer. This is who I've been working with." So I would like them to be invited. And at first I was kind of, that engineer wants to work with their stable of contractors because they understand what they're going to get and they've done jobs with them. So it was a little bit of an uphill battle, but it got me in front of those engineers who are the white knights who help influence the decision makers. And I just took my relationship building skills and started just creating friends with them.
How'd you do that? How'd you go about with like property managers and engineers? What's your favorite way to what was your favorite way to connect and build friendship and connection?
Just be myself,
like hey, let's meet for lunch, or like let's grab a happy hour, or just it's more phone call work, or
It's a lot of phone call work.
Yeah.
The lunch, I've never been like a big lunch guy. It was really
You're
just
moving too fast, man. You didn't.
I was moving too fast. I didn't have time for that, right? So it was really just getting the confidence that says, "Hey, man, I'm your guy. I'm your roofer. You need help with inspections, whatever future jobs that you have coming up, just call me. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
I want to align myself. My job is to make you look good."
So when they called you, were they more like, because I liked you, or they like someone's dropping the ball, or they're just not giving enough time? There's a bit of both.
A little bit of both. I mean, just here's one story. There was this big account called Flagler, Flagler Development. It was down here in Miami. The consultant was aligned with another contractor at that time. She was also, her kids were going to the same school that my sister was going to.
Okay.
So we would see her there and be like, hey, when can we work with you? When can we work with you?
Yeah.
Let me be your number two. Whatever it took, we were just consistent. And one of the things that we used to do is we used to sponsor these highway signs and put them on 95.
Saw one the other day.
Yeah. So we knew what exit she got off on every day. So we sponsored that exit, specifically. So she would get off and see the sign every day. And it just became, like I said, brand awareness to where, hey, I got a roof, man, I see Best Roofing everywhere. Let me give him a call. Hey, I met this guy, Zach. He's a pretty cool dude. I liked him. Let me give him a call.
I remember you guys would do the Isuzu box trucks on service. You had like 35 of them running around town. And you would even like brand the top. So that if you were like on a highway, you're looking down, you'd see Best Roofing from the top. They were just all over.
And there's no like magic, like you said, there's no magic bullet. It's just creating relationships, making people laugh, and getting them to remember you. There was funny slogans on the side that say like, 4 out of 3 people have trouble with fractions.
Yeah.
Or like, there's 3 types of people, those that can count and those that can't. Just you're like, what? What did you just say?
Yeah.
So they're just little things that separate you, that make people laugh and just humanize.
What was cool is it allowed your dad to like, who's really a great communicator, incredible, very charming like you, very good, engaging. He started doing like educational content for property managers at groups, and then you guys would have them tour the office.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I remember your marketing team had a quota of like certain number of these a month or whatever. And that started to combine his front end branding and
100%.
Presenting with then, and then the lead comes in, and then so let's talk about that for a second, and then I want to go to Kairos.
Yeah.
So lead would come in. What would happen?
All right. So, but we needed to we were offering these classes called Roofing 101, right? But most people think, okay, aside from Roofing 101 and learning about it, what is in it for me to want to go, spend an hour or two away from my busy day to do this? So we took it to the next level. We went to the state and we got it accredited.
Nice.
So that we could issue credits to the property managers who had to get so many educational credits, every year to keep their license active.
Yeah.
So now they're like, oh, I can go to this and I can get 2 or 4 hours, whatever it was. And I only needed 14. So they're really, they're knocking it down by attending this. Also, they're learning about, the roof. They're seeing the guy with the big curly hair, the brand. So you said when the lead comes in, we'd have the marketing people go out. They're setting the appointment with the property managers. We get the opportunity to present at the end of the conference. So the meeting, we would say, if there's anything we can help you out with, and we'd have a lead sheet that we'd fill everything out. And then also a little trick is like when you're ever at a board meeting or in a big group, one of the things that I used to do to make sure that I can get to the decision maker, especially if there's somebody in between, is I would hand a sign-in sheet or hand out a sign-in sheet. And I'd sign in first, right? And then, when most people are like sheep, right? They just follow suit. So the sign-in sheet's getting passed around, and I put like your name, your email, your role, and your best contact, right? And when you see like board president in there or like building owner or whatever it was, it gave us the opportunity to be able to get to those decision makers. So
that's awesome.
So the lead would come in, it would get logged into our system. It'd get assigned to a rep. The rep's responsibility was to follow up that same day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're anything like me, when I'm calling around trying to get quotes, I want to talk to somebody like now. Right? And when I can't talk to them, what do? I just go to the next person, right? So if the rep wasn't available right then, they were calling them like within the hour.
They do a little we had a whole process.
A whole process on, time, budget, decision maker, and then setting the appointment, making sure that they're a good fit for us, that we're a good fit for them, following what our sales process was, doing the steps that it takes to be able to quote a job, and try to get as much face time with those people, because it's harder to say no in person than it is through a text or
we had a no email quote rule.
No,
none of that. It was all in person. That's why we have a sales team, not a bunch of estimators.
Exactly, right? If that, I'll just get a bunch of bid deliverers, right? I might as well just hire Uber to just drive my bids around.
Yeah.
But and with today, FaceTime shouldn't be hard, especially with like Zoom calls, Teams meetings,
Yeah.
again, getting in front of
There's
people.
still people that email bids today, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
So like you not only like had the natural gift and then you had the brand and a platform to sell with, you did it for like 7 years in like a fully functional sales role to a leader, to a $30 million guy. You sold 150 million. You became like habitually good at this point. Like this is like in you.
Mm-hmm.
So talk as much as you feel comfortable about why you left Best Roofing and
Sure.
then what happened from there when you started. And then knowing that we have about 15 minutes left, just thinking about that.
Yeah. So things were rocking and rolling. Things are going great at the company. But I was going through some personal challenges at that time. Anytime something really traumatic happens in my life, I have a tendency to turn the leaf on a few different areas. So I had been there for coming up on almost 10 years. I felt like I had mastered where I was at, and it's not that I wasn't challenged
You
anymore.
dominated it.
Yeah, I dominated it, and I was ready for like the next level. So
that would have been like owning it or running the whole thing, but
right,
that wasn't ready for that.
I felt like I was running the day to day,
Mm-hmm.
and I was ready to be in a higher leadership role than I already was.
Right.
Respectfully to Dad, he wasn't ready to step aside.
Yeah.
And I had just hit a professional growth ceiling. So it's something that I had been wrestling with for about 2 years, and it just kept festering and festering. And I was trying to hold it in. I always wanted to be there for Dad, not let him down, and hopefully take over the business.
Yeah.
But my itch to be a leader and an entrepreneur and spread my wings came faster than the opportunity for Dad to retire and to step in.
It's really well said.
Yeah. So appreciate
to
that.
put it really nicely. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's really well said. So then what happened? You had like an encounter in Mexico or something, right?
Yeah. So I asked my father for permission to resign. I got a lot of respect for him, and I wasn't just going to leave him high and dry, especially being his Mustang and him counting on me. So I said, look, I'll give you 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is that you need. But he saw the burning desire in me to move on, and that I just wasn't having fun where I'm at right now. So I'll never forget, he told me to meet him at this Chinese restaurant. I was pretty emotional and vulnerable with him, just telling him what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
And he said, son, I've been there. I know exactly where you're at. I'm going to let you go in 10 days. And for me, it was a really emotional thing for me to digest and accept, because I had given him such a long period of time and I was willing to do that. And for him to release me and give it to me in 10 days, it was almost like a punch to the gut, because I had so much sweat equity into like helping build this company. But it was the right thing to do, because I don't think my mindset was right. And I think I could have affected the culture. So he said, hey, go do your thing. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for that. But what was most important to me is I needed his blessing to go do it.
Yeah, totally. You don't want to leave on bad terms. No. And it was, you guys did a good job of
yeah.
And he gets it, man. He's a thoroughbred himself, and he knows when it's time.
Yeah.
So then you went to Mexico, you had this this thing, and then you started.
Yeah, so I'm like in between jobs. I'm trying to figure out, what it is I'm going to do. I got a roofing and a general contracting license. I know I'm going to do residential roofing. I want it to be more impactful. I love dealing with people. And what I realized with commercial roofing, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more transactional. It's a lot longer of a selling cycle, and it's less emotional. I'm good with people. I'm good with high emotion situations. And on somebody's house, it's like the roof is the biggest investment, most of the time, and it protects everything that's below it. So it's kind of a big deal. And I wanted to be the guy who was like protecting your castle. So the agreement I had with Dad was, hey, I won't do any commercial, but I know you get a lot of residential opportunities. You're not doing them. I ask that you would support me and feed me those. So he said, all right, I can do that. I'm in between. I'm trying to find a name, and I'm coming up with Superior, Progressive, Florida, like, all these like generic names. And I wanted it to be something that was super unique. So this guy that was a little bit older than me at the time, I was sharing my story, and he said, Zach, you're at a Kairos point in your life. And I said, man, that's a pretty cool word, but the hell does that mean? Right. So, I went and did some research on it, and it means, in simple terms, when conditions are right for a change.
Do I know who said that?
A guy named John Contini.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you remember John?
I know the Continis.
Yeah, John Contini, his son, he's a pastor down in Miami.
Yeah. That's awesome.
John was a judge who had retired from that career. And,
I remember him now.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. I remember him.
And he was
He's
working.
A stud. He's a good dude. Okay.
And he just said he was very, had a big vocabulary, and he said, you're at a Kairos point in your life, and I know how you are, Zach. Everything that you touch that you're like really invested in, you're going to be above the rest. Well, above the rest ended up being my tagline.
Oh, cool.
So I said, man, let me take this word Kairos and start studying it. And I start seeing it all over. And my mom says, hey, go to Mexico and spend some time there and just kind of like decompress a little bit. You're real wound up, and find yourself. It'll come when it's time. So, all right. So my wife at the time was my girlfriend, who was a project manager at Best Roofing. Took some time, came with me. Excuse me. And we're backpacking around. And on the scooter, she says, hey, did you see what that sign said? I go, no, what are you talking about? So we turn around and we go back, and it's a retail store, and there's 3 of them, like 1, 2, 3. And it says, Zach B. Kairos. Like it was like a God thing.
Whoa, bro.
It was Godcidental for sure. In that order and everything. And I just remember looking at her. I started crying. I called my mom. I was like, I found the name. I know what I'm doing. And that was the name. So I come back. I tell my dad, I'm going to name it Kairos Roofing. And the Heat were in the NBA Finals at that time, and they had the Miami Vice jerseys. And my wife suggested, and let's go pink, because the wives in the house usually make the decisions, and that'll attract them. So let's go pink. I said to Dad, I'm going Kairos Roofing, and I'm pink. And he goes, are you effing nuts? He goes, that's the dumbest name I've ever heard. Nobody's going to remember that. And I go, that was not the answer I was looking for. And I said, well, you asked me if I'm nuts. I would say kinda, yeah. I just quit my job with you. I really have no money, but I know that I got grit, I got vision, and I got work ethic. Yeah, I'm a little nuts, but this is what I'm going to go. I'm convicted to this, and I feel good about it. So I gave him my pro forma. I said, I'm going to do $1 million my first year. I'm real excited. I'm pumped up. He says, that's great. If you do half of that, be proud of yourself. And I was determined to be successful. Well, we ended up doing $7 million that first year.
Crazy.
Crazy, right? Like crazy,
bro. Without any infrastructure.
0 infrastructure, pen and pad. Let's fucking go. So I was using the follow-up system, and I was using the fundamentals that I had learned at Best Roofing, just carried it forward. We went from 7 million to 10 million our second year. And I realized at that time that the company was bigger than me, and I needed to put some processes in place. And what I would say to entrepreneurs out there that are like in infancy stage is sometimes you don't know what you need until you're there, right? Yeah. So to try to be like super sophisticated and dialed in at your like $1 to $2 million company, it might be overkill. There's just like basic fundamentals that you need. But for me at that time, estimating was something that I had to tighten up on. We were all using Excel sheets, but all of them were old or outdated or newer, and we were getting inconsistent pricing. So that is when I introduced Job Nimbus and Sumo Quote into our company. And that next year we went from 10 million to 18 million to 27 million or 27.5 million.
Yeah.
And then
shout out to Job Nimbus Sumo Quote.
Yeah.
I remember introducing you to them. I was like, do them. Because I was like in the industry. I still am, but
100%.
I was like, yeah, because you went from follow up to like ProJewel or something.
ProJewel, which was
like,
silly.
I've never even heard of it. No disrespect. I don't know who they are, but yeah. And then it just like then you guys were into Job Nimbus,
and then we moved into Job Nimbus, and then Sumo Quote and Job Nimbus talk to each other, and then we got Company Cam linked up together. So between the three of them integrating together, that's what really allowed our selling cycle and our sales process, sales presentation to just take off.
That's insane.
And that's when the unexpected turn of events happened. We're like rocking and rolling. We're making great money. I got a great culture. I got a lot of, I'm just having fun. I'm
You're winning, man.
I'm winning, right?
Yeah.
And the company's like, going this way. I'm having some kids, and but I will tell you, towards the end, like residential, man, is high volume. And if you have a really good process in place, you can scale it. But it's high volume, a lot of touches, a lot of emotions along the way. That's when I got this email. I'll never forget the guy's name, Johnny Sebastian. And I think this was like at the beginning of what's going on in the industry right now with the residential roll-ups, or really across the board. And he says, "Hey, we're interested in buying your company." And I thought it was like spam at that time, so I just kept ignoring it. And he just kept pinging me. And I said, "Hey, I'm not interested," but something in the back of my mind said, maybe I am interested, and this was when we were at 18. So I said, "Here's our top line. Here's our bottom line. Hit me up in a year." So I kind of forgot about it, went back to work. And then he followed through. He hit me up in a year, and said, "Hey, take the meeting. You said we'll talk." And I said, "No, I'm still not interested." He goes, "Dude, you don't even know what you're saying no to. Just take a damn meeting." So, I said, "All right, fine. It's not going to cost me anything." So I take the meeting. What I found out is he's the intermediate guy. He finds companies, and then he brings them to the investment guys. Introduces me to a group called Vertex Service Partners, which was backed by a San Francisco-based company called Alpine Investors.
Yeah.
Met some really great guys there. They flew over, met with us a couple times, and really started talking to me about what it would take to sell your business. This was territory that I'm not familiar with. I thought I was good at business, and I realized I'm good at like this much business, and there's so many other facets of it.
Yeah.
They gave me an unbelievable offer, and I told them, "Guys, I need to do some soul searching here. Like, we're talking like a whole nother level that I'm not familiar with.
Right.
I'm growing fast, so what am I gonna do?" So I take some time. I said, "Give me like 3 days." Talk to my wife. She says, "I don't think so. I think we're continuing to grow, and the number they're giving us is great, but I think we can make that, in 8 to 10 years of just like hard work." So we go back to him. I said, "Hey, thank you so much. I'm not saying no. I'm saying no right now.
Yeah.
And when the time comes, I'll give you guys the first right of refusal." So we go back to work. We're in the middle of August, rainy season. Things are busy. We're running fast. The phone's ringing. But the thing is the business was owning me. I had some very young kids. I was gone before the sun's up, and I was home when the sun's down.
Yeah.
I wasn't really seeing them. My marriage started to have some strains. I'm investing everything into the business, and I'm really not pouring into my family. And that started to really pop its head up. I didn't want to ever go through what I had went through in 2018. And I saw some of the similar patterns. So I said, "You know what? Something's got to change. Karen, would you be interested in revisiting what we said no to 4 months ago?" So she's, "Yeah, if you're on board, I'm on board."
Wow.
So I go back to him, call him up, said, "Hey, you're probably not interested, but I just wanted to follow through with my commitment to you." And they said, "Hell yeah, we're interested." And they flew back down. We started negotiating. We negotiated hard for a while. But they were like really just great people to deal with. And we
Shout out to Vertex.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Vertex, Raj, Zach,
cool.
Dennis, all you guys, really impactful in my life. So anyways, we settle on a number. November 8th of 2023, we met at the Bank of America building downtown Fort Lauderdale, which was kind of cool because the building next door, which used to be the SunTrust Towers, was my first $1 million job. So I was in the penthouse looking at my first big job that I sold, and I get this wire that's like life changing,
Wow.
and so that's how the unexpected turn of events happen.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
What a story. I love being able to share this with you. What would you say to our friends that if you were to do it all over again, or if you were to speak into their life right now that's being inspired by you, what would you just tell them? Like just some words of wisdom.
If you have something that's a burning desire that you want to go forward with, I would say go forward with it. Don't be afraid of hard work. Culture is everything. Make sure you're the best place to work. With technology nowadays, everybody's a free agent. Align yourself with people that believe in your vision and that believe in you. Set short-term goals that you can measure into your long-term goal.
Mm-hmm.
Put your helmet on, put your mouthpiece in, and go to work.
Love it.
Yeah.
Man, so good to be with you. Thanks so much.
Shit, man. Thanks for letting me share my story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, bro.
All right, bro.
It's a wrap.